Good evening, everyone. We've got a number of folks present for our short-term rentals workshop. Calling the meeting to order. Ethan can't make it. He's got a conflict with the school event tonight, but we have a quorum with the remaining board members present. We're going to start off an executive session with quick meeting with our attorney, and I am looking for a motion.
Motion to take an executive session with our attorney.
So if you could read the chapter MRSA Title I. You have to. It's required.
I'm sorry.
Quite all right.
I make a motion to go into executive session, MRSA Title I, Chapter 13, Subchapter 1, 4056E, legal consultation.
So Shelley's motion
Second.
and Ethna seconds. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. So what we ask the public to do is just step out into the hallway while we, we'll consult with our attorney, and then we'll invite you back in once we're through. All right, we are going to allow the public back in. All right, and there's no action taken. That's fine. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're going to call this workshop to order. We follow Robert's Rules of Order. If there's any public that wishes to ask questions, offer input, just please raise your hand, and I will contact you. We've got some people, a couple of people in the Zoom audience as well, and we really appreciate you guys being here and all the input. So this is our first official review of the current draft of the short-term rental ordinance. This was first brought to the Board of Selectmen last spring. Are there extra copies of them? Okay. This was first brought to the Board of Selectmen by a group of local business owners, local folks of interest. They actually presented the board with a draft ordinance for review. And given the public interest and information that had come back to the board, we then sent this draft to the ordinance committee, and the ordinance committee has processed it and refined it and has now put it before the Board of Selectmen. So I will, let me wait till you have that in hand. We do have submitted is some statistics that was provided by Beth Eastlack of Morton and Furbish Vacation Rentals. That is basically, their share of what appears to be the local short-term rental market, owner occupancy average, and a number of other, employment, etc. So we have a we have a notation here or a memo from the town clerk regarding some initial recommended changes. And so once you have your copies, you know, I'll start on these revisions. And Ethna, are these revisions that, okay, yeah, ordinance committee, this is something that you all thought of after the fact that you wanted presented in the final document?
Yes, so sorry, yep, when you're ready to talk. Unless you want me to just go over that really quick.
Let's just wait. We've got some folks present, so I want to make sure that you can follow along. And go from there. We did have, or Joe emailed the board, there were 2 short-term rental ordinances that were forwarded to us today from Kittery and some other town. I haven't had a chance to look at them or read them. Kennebunkport, okay. I would just say, take a look at them before our next workshop and see if there's anything that the board feels worth discussing.
And do you want, I'll just throw in, would you like multiple additional copies? Because the ordinance committee has both these copies, I noticed, but we also have additional ones that were not provided to the board, which just may be, the ordinance committee pulled all the ones that were active in the state of Maine at the time.
Okay.
So I have Bar Harbor, Cape Elizabeth, Freeport, Gardner's proposed one, theirs is not adopted yet, and then I have Graves as well.
Have you talked to any of them, any of those people from these towns, and like specifically seen how they've gone through the process or what they've learned
No,
from?
no, I just took their language, we just kind of reviewed all of their language and saw how it would fit into
Ours.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if that'd be a good thing with these workshops, is that kind of reach out to other towns and maybe get an idea of what they've gone through or how it's been going, or what they maybe would have changed or that.
Yeah, we can certainly address that. So where Ethna has been an active participant of the ordinance committee and drafting this ordinance, how about an overview, Ethna, the goal?
Okay, so the ordinance was presented to the ordinance committee to review as submitted by the Good Neighbor group. There was several months that we just, in November. So the ordinance committee had been discussing it for at least 4 months, maybe 5. I'm trying to remember when we directed to give it to them, so I do apologize, I don't have that exact timeline. So 4 or 5 months, the ordinance committee hashed it over. There were some suggestions brought forward that were either included by majority vote or removed by majority vote. So the document that's in front of you is the draft based on the majority vote of that working group. The language for the letter that says the ordinance committee, the registration fee is something that the board of selectmen would set.
Okay.
So it's not within, I think it started out within the text of the document, and we decided that group by majority vote decided that it shouldn't stay within that because that group doesn't have anything to do with setting the fees. The registration fees all lie with this board. The suggestion of the no fee for the first year after the enactment of this ordinance, that based on the communication during the board meeting, during the ordinance meeting, that was suggested because they felt like the majority purpose behind this was to get people to register. And they thought if there was no initial registration fee, they were more likely to get a full list of registered short-term rentals in the town of Rangeley. Now, of course, please be aware that this is just the town of Rangeley. We can't regulate the surrounding plantations. We can't touch them. So this would be just for short-term rentals within the Rangeley.
Can I ask a question? What is considered short term? Is it a week? Is it 6 months? Is it?
Anything less than 28 days.
Number 10. Can I answer your question also?
Yes.
I'm late to the game as well, so I heard this just recently, and it seems like the wheels were already on the bus here. I didn't know anything about it. We were conducting Airbnb business at my house now for this will be my 3rd year. And I'm adamantly opposed to this whole thing, and it looks like this thing's already rolling, and it's got a lot of steam to it. How do we put the brakes on it? Because I don't see a need for it. I pay my taxes, I do my part. It doesn't put more burden on the town whatsoever, because if I'm not there, it's somebody else in my stead. So as far as burden is concerned, there is none. All I see this is another fee that is not necessary in any way. Like I say, I pay my taxes, and if there's something needed at my house, it's needed at my house, but whether it be fire or police or anything like that, I get what you're saying. But I don't see that this is something that the path we should go down. I know that there's another town in Maine that was recently voted down. I forget what it was. I want to say it was somewhere south of us over a mountain, be. They already voted it down, and what's the chance of stopping this bus?
Well, this is, the Board of Selectmen will vote to present this to town, at town meeting. So any ordinances that have been brought forth, whether by petition, request, whether they stem from the board, we present them at town meeting for residents to approve or deny. We have had letters written to us about, from neighbors that have suffered from Airbnbs, short-term rentals that have affected their quality of living. And for folks that already comply, this won't be any extra burden other than paying a registration fee, because frankly, what folks need, if there is a complaint, is they need to be able to call someone. If they're over capacity, if they've parked on their lawn, or dogs are running loose, and these are all examples that have been brought forth to the board. We don't have a 24/7 PD. Our code enforcement officer is Monday through Friday. And so there needs to be a way for, someone who is trying to have quiet enjoyment of their home to contact the owner or the management company to solve the issue. Because frankly, there's probably a few people that have ruined it for others who do it right like you.
So the answer is the bus is rolling.
The bus
There's
is
no
rolling.
stopping it. You say that these other people, the neighbors that have complained, they've got a very loud voice, and you're listening to them. On the other hand, you're probably listening to the vocal minority again. And yeah, I get that there is a vocal minority out there, but I want to talk about the vocal majority, which is what I am. The $300 is just another fee that I don't think is necessary. If you want to regulate it with the intent and purpose of making sure that people do the right thing, I understand licensure and why it's there. So if you want to regulate it and get a list of people, okay, first year's free, that's going to go by and blink of an eye. But if you want to regulate it, well, maybe make it free. I don't see that there needs to be a cost to it. To be honest with you, you'll probably never hear boo from me, because I've owned my house for 12 years. I had Kelly O'Neill renting it prior to me, and we never had any trouble with anybody then. I've got the cameras on my house and I can see when there are too many people. There was a group of skiers up last year that I had to evict myself. And yes, I do the right thing. And I don't think that many people do the wrong thing. There's probably a few people and they might use town resource for the purpose that you're talking about, but it's very few. And as far as my house being occupied in my stead, whether one person's there and it's me or it's not, it doesn't matter as far as town burden is concerned. Town needs to still plow. All of the other services that are provided on my street, which is Cross Street, are going to be done regardless of whether or not someone's at my house in my stead or not. But if you want to put teeth into the language of making sure people do, in fact, do the right thing, all right, I'm not opposed to that, but I don't see the need for $300 or later on $500. We know what Biden inflation is doing. It's probably going to go up in the future anyways. And it's just another fee that someone like me who only rents out really for maybe about 10 weeks a year is going to have to pay a lot for just basically making it affordable for me to have a second home, pay the taxes that I pay to the town and the water and sewer bills and all of those things. Is placing a bigger burden on me. I'm just a little guy. And I think it's just not right. I'd like to see the brakes put on this and not another word said, to be honest.
Thank you for your input. Appreciate it.
So in the interest of just finishing, sorry. Because we kind of got sidetracked. So the B on this was the suggestion of no fee for the first year after the enactment of the ordinance, and that was based on the fact that the majority of the ordinance committee felt that the intent of this ordinance was to get a list of who were short-term rentals. That was their kind of driving factor. And then C, the removal of the language in 3442, excluding children under the age of 16 years of age. It was just an afterthought. That language we thought had been removed at one point, and the intent of the group was not to have that language in there. It just didn't make sense. But that's the breakdown of the changes that came after. And Madam Chairman, in the interest of full disclosure, I am employed by a short-term rental management company. I do not have any direct or indirect pecuniary interest per the state statute that would indicate conflict of interest, as I am not an owner of that business. However, I would like to offer, in the interest of not making anyone feel uncomfortable, I will be active in the discussions and the participation in that manner, but I will abstain from any votes on this ordinance.
All right, so let's begin the review of the short-term rental ordinance. So in the first paragraph, I noticed that it says governing the short-term rental of legal residential properties in the town of Rangeley. So legal resident, so as far as illegal is concerned, you know, is that as defined by our current code where a minimum, where there's a minimum square footage or whatnot, or is that just standard language that you saw in other statutes? I mean, I'm sorry, other short-term rental.
No, that's okay. So my understanding is the purpose language is basically language that was from other, so not necessarily something that needs to remain if you don't like the language of it. Or if you want more of a definition of the language of it, I suppose you could add it to the definitions.
Yeah, I guess we'll just, well, this is the initial discussion. Yeah, I'm just going to underline it and see if there needs to be anything further. Yes.
So again, just by definition of legal, I look at that saying is that property all legal in aspect? They paid the property tax, they paid everything, and it's just not a property that has gone by the wayside, of which it's bankruptcy or something of that nature. I mean, just that everything is in place, that it's recognized in the town as a plot with a dwelling, that's all, everything's paid up. That's the way I look at it.
I don't see, I guess my mindset was not that it's paid up or whatnot. I don't think that's, go ahead.
One would think that that language would mean a property that is within compliance of,
Ingress, egress, living space, that's.
that is in compliance of all of your other standards for your residential properties.
Yeah, so not so much, just making sure, I guess my interpretation was that it's a habitable property, proper ingress, egress for the layout, and isn't a converted utility shed from Home Depot or something. Going into definitions. Advertise seems to cover everything. Bedroom is a room that contains a minimum of 70 square feet. Or defined as a bunk room or a loft area. Dwelling, very simple. Dwelling unit. First time applicants. Guess. So question, when someone reserves a short-term rental, do they disclose the number of guests to you, John or Ethna? And, okay.
They do.
They
All right.
do, but it may not always tell the truth.
So you speak from experience where,
Yes,
yeah,
And those are the ones you toss out.
that's.
That was the scenario last New Year's. I had a group that came in from New York City. They had reserved it for 4 people and they had 7.
mhm,
I counted the heads on my camera and asked my neighbors to prove it. And I came right up and I got rid of them myself.
yeah,
There was an option for them to just pay me for the additional, but they refused to talk to me and basically let my texts go unnoticed, and that's when I evicted them myself. This will now be my 30th, so in the 2 years that I've had to do this myself, that's the only occurrence. So if you want to look at number of renters versus how many times action had to be taken, which that was only because there were too many people. It's not like we were doing anything bad, like someone mentioned shooting guns or something like that, or driving up and down the road or anything like that. It's just simply that they overloaded my house.
right,
So it's really a minor thing. If I rented it out on the past 2 years on a dozen occasions, hell, even if it was 30 occasions, and had that as my only cause to raise an eyebrow to the process, I'd say that's probably reflective of everybody who has short-term rentals. I'm not unique. Mine is probably a microcosm.
well, the thing is, John, is we had short-term rental businesses that brought this ordinance to the Board of Selectmen. So it wasn't just a group of, angry neighbors, it was Kelly and Grant and Beth Eastlack and other concerned citizens and businesses that brought this request for short-term rental ordinance to the Board of Selectmen. Just
Oh, I'm sorry. to interrupt.
so you.
So yeah, Kelly and Beth, don't pay the $300.
They are in violation of the ordinance.
No, it's not their homes. It's the homeowner's responsibility.
And the
So
homeowner makes money from the short-term rental.
a lot less when you put in a licensure fee. Exactly 300 this year, well, this coming year, and more later. So I already pay my taxes, as I stated prior. If you wanted to give this teeth, fine, so be it. However, I don't see that this needs to be on top of the taxes that I already pay.
Thank you. Ethna?
And I don't mean to speak for Beth, especially since she's here. Did you want to make a comment to that licensure fee and your position on it?
Oh, hello, everyone. So the original ordinance that was written did not have a registration fee. So I was not part of the fee piece that was voted on by the ordinance committee.
Okay, thank you, Beth. It's,
Sorry, I just didn't want misinformation out there.
Is there something I can just?
Yes,
ask
please.
Is there some, the $300 is just interesting to me. Is there somehow they pick $300 versus $50?
well, as Ethna said, they use the example from a number of other towns. And with this ordinance comes enforcement. And that is a cost component, you know, to the town. It's in addition to current services that, you know, that are being offered. It's a town ordinance. So
So what I'm hearing is that $300 is really to cover some costs that the town incurs.
exactly. So
For people to rent short term.
exactly.
So
Is this something new, John?
no, it's comparing it to other ordinances, for
Okay.
instance, the mooring ordinance. Mooring ordinance is also enforced by the police, and there's no fee for that, is there?
Well, moorings is seasonal. So if there's a lot less enforcement involved with, and it's very focused and localized. So it's not something that is an issue townwide.
Do any of these other ordinances carry a fee with them?
I am not sure.
Yes. Your zoning ordinance carries any fee from your building permits to your dock permits to your, and there are a variety of fees that are sprinkled throughout the entire 38 chapters that is our ordinance.
Just to get a bed and breakfast, you need a CUP regardless. You just can't say, I own property, I want to put a B&B in. That CUP, we paid, I don't know, a chunk of money. So look at it that way. You know, if you want to do Airbnb or something like that, that's your buy-in.
Mine is not a business, though.
How's it not a business?
They have to make ends meet, it's not a business.
Okay.
So, and CUP is a conditional use permit that is, that someone obtains through the planning board. Local contact person. So I know that this was a lot of discussion because that has been a big component of issues. So local contact person is an individual who's personally available by telephone within 30 minutes and who maintains the ability to be on site within 24 hours. And this is a lot more generous than the initial
And the original.
draft, because I had to be, I think, on site within 2 hours or something like that. So, and who has access and authority to assume management of the short-term rental. An agent or professional property management company that meets the availability requirements can serve as the local contact person. And so, as far as any feedback from the board on this, I know that, I mean, John obviously is very responsive to, you know, the needs of his property. And our local management company, short-term rental, what is it, 24/7 on call? So, so there's that piece as well, because again, you know, we don't have 24/7 enforcement here in Rangeley. Of course, the county will provide that. So,
And I do have the original paragraph if you wanted that for,
Yes.
just for a reference point, yeah. So the original paragraph for local contact person, an individual who is personally available by telephone on a 24-hour basis. and who maintains the ability to be on site within 60 minutes, and who has access and authority to assume management of the short-term rental, an agent or professional property management company that meets the availability requirements can serve as the local contact person.
All right,
Maybe,
yes,
can we ask some stuff?
of
I'm
course.
just- The 24 hours feels to me like that's 10 o'clock one night that this thing starts happening. You got now until 10 o'clock the next day to correct it for the next night. What about, I mean, so John does a great job and it sounds like most can respond. I guess my bigger thing is the issue needs to be resolved in 6 hours. You don't need to be on site in 24. I could care less. But you need to resolve the issue as the contact person.
And that's what the 30-minute, the new
So,
paragraph,
okay.
an individual who is personally available by telephone within 30 minutes.
But that doesn't tell me, that just says you're available. Now you know there's an issue going on in the place you're
Correct.
renting.
And if
I'm
you are a
talking about-
responsible owner, you will take care of it immediately.
Oh, okay, okay. well,
Yes,
then-
if
so
you're a
really-
responsible owner, the minute you get that phone call, you're going to address
Okay,
the
great,
issue.
because then, okay, that clarifies things much better for me. Because
Yeah.
now, if I'm the neighbor here, that the rental's going crazy,
Mhm,
you're telling me what the ordinance really says is you need to fix this in 30 minutes.
essentially.
Okay,
yes.
oh, that's a lot different than, I mean, I could care less about being on site before,
Mhm.
if the issue's taken care of. Okay, thank you very much.
No, you're very welcome. I guess being on site, say there's damage or say there's, you know, then they're there to personally, you know, whether it's
Some kind of septic issue or some kind of bigger issue that's not going to be able to be fixed within that first initial contact that will require somebody to be there to take care of the rest of it. It's larger scale issues. It's not if it's not taken care of and you've got a dangerous situation, you dial 911. You don't
Right,
wait
right,
for
right,
the
right.
contact first.
But dogs running, guns getting shot, all that stuff should be done in 30 minutes.
Oh, there you
absolutely,
go.
absolutely.
Cops coming anyway.
Just saying.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Or would you like to shorten, see that shortened, that 24-hour shortened, even still, even though it's going to be taken care of within the 30, would you like it to be 12 hours? Would you like it to be, you know, more, I don't know.
Shelley,
I just think that the 24 hours gives someone enough time that something that's gonna happen, is gonna happen immediately within the 30 minutes. But if someone has to like call around and say, I gotta call work and make arrangements to be up here, so I'm just gonna need a day to do that, so I can leave work, I think 24 hours is more. That's just my personal opinion, but because there's sometimes I just can't go by the fly, I have to
I
like
get it. I mean,
do everything through work, so. And plus, some of them are coming from hours away. It's like they're coming from Connecticut. It's gonna take them sometimes 6 hours just to get here and stuff like that too.
And I'm sure they can contact somebody up here who can show up for them.
Well, and here's the other side to that coin, is given the region that we're in, the majority of our second homeowners have property management. They have somebody they can call,
Right.
whether it's the Michael Haley or the
Yes.
AJ or I mean, they've got somebody locally they can get on the phone and say, I need you at my property.
Yeah.
But that window was something that the majority of the ordinance committee thought should be there to compensate the one who doesn't have somebody right here that may take 2 hours for them to get here.
Right.
They thought that the original time was a little too short.
someone have a question? Did you have a question?
That's all I'm saying.
Okay, all right. Okay, so it seems we've got a consensus with local contact person operator. Any and all of the following, and there are 4 points. Yes,
I
Sam.
guess my question on that is operator versus owner. Why operator? Why that term operator? So it says that this person is going to be the legal, who has legal right to possession. I mean, isn't that an owner, not an operator? I mean, an operator to me is the management team. Do they really want that responsibility, that liability instead of the owner? Makes sense? Like that, I just find that wording kind of generic.
And B would go into D, is what you're saying.
Right, so it's yeah, I mean, the person who collects money, do you really want all that responsibility as the rental
Take it on.
agencies or, I mean, there's that,
You take it on as the management company for the rental property.
yeah, okay, and you, yeah, that's just the way that.
I think that might be why the use of the word operator versus owner, to
Okay.
kind of encompass all groups that could potentially be in the short-term rental. So for the management, the private property owners, I think that was the
It's
intent.
just like the all.
It was to
inclusive
encompass
group,
every, yeah.
Right, but don't you wanna separate those?
You may
two?
want to, yeah,
I
you may
mean,
want to.
the operator versus the owner.
I guess what we should probably look at is how operator is used in this ordinance.
It's under registrations. I think is where you see that language come into play, is under the registration.
Yeah. Operator.
Each applicant shall include operator name and contact info, so it could be, you know, the legal owner.
Cause even that B, that legal right to possession of short term, I don't know, it just very. I don't know, it's just worded loosely or. What does that mean, right to possession, if you're not the owner, you're the operator wouldn't have that, I mean. The operator is the management team, doesn't have the right to possession of this home.
So I guess the only thing I could think of, Sam, and I'm not even sure that my thought process is correct, would be say if mom owned the property, okay, and the, you know, the children are, or a child, an adult child is the one who maintains it, kind of works with the rental company, et cetera. That's the only thing I could, you know, kind of think of where that might apply is.
Which is like, I feel like a whole nother thing. I mean, because, you know, with the liabilities, and like, I think when we go into transferring of properties and liabilities of this, you know, I think there's a whole section that even Handbook talks about, it's like.
Oh, is it because if the property is in the name of the trust or an LLC,
Yeah,
it would be the operator, it's either the manager or the operator of the company or the trustees or whoever's doing that.
I'm just thinking maybe different wording, even keeping that if something, but then having another section. Or too much wording, but.
Well, let's circle that. Let's circle B.
The
I was
operator.
gonna say it was eight entirely,
Eight
wasn't it?
entirely,
Stan,
was- I mean, I just
right?
think, well, I'm not that I don't like it,
No,
just
no,
think
no,
that the
the
collecting
language
of
is
money is,
clear.
All right.
and I would like, you know, the management to be protected better and, you know, everybody taking care of, you know, not just everything falling on them.
Mhm,
The owner needs to have a lot of responsibility as well.
mhm. All right, so, you know, let's, we'll come back to 8 and maybe taking a look at these other examples, and wording may help to clarify some things. Were there any other questions or comments under operator number 8? 9, the registration cycle is a fiscal year, beginning July 1, going through June 30. Applications must be submitted by May 1 of the year in which the operator is seeking the certificate. Seems pretty straightforward. Short-term rental.
Is there a minimum in short-term rental? I mean, like, do you generally ask like at least 2 days for you, like a weekend? Like, I mean, you don't want to have somebody take over a house for a night for the cleaning fees and I mean, right, I mean, should there be a minimum in that?
It's all to the property owner's specifications. I will say that in my field, it's a 2-night minimum. We don't want hours. No.
But, I mean, at least, I mean, like, should that be wording? I mean, should be at least two, or is that just understood?
Pretty much the owners don't wanna go just one night,
Right.
they'll take care of that.
Right.
Some people say no, a week.
Yeah.
They don't
Oh,
want
yes,
to, we've got lots of
3
those,
days or
right?
whatever.
Yeah, but I don't wanna rent for one night,
No,
too
no,
much work, too much
Right.
hassle, too much.
yeah,
Minimum
and
2 nights or minimum 3.
I'm not sure we want to be that,
That's up to them.
Regulatory.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, that's
up to you
really-
guys, you guys, okay.
yeah. All right. And as was mentioned earlier, for this qualifies for those folks who want to lease their or use their home for a short-term rental, which is less than 28 consecutive days.
Are you also-
Yes, Sam.
Are we thinking about putting on how many days a year you can rent? So like, at least you know that the property owner is there, three.
Absolutely not, because we have several, so we can't possibly live with them.
Yeah.
We have to rent it.
But then it had, yeah, then that's, then that's like, if you're not living on the purpose of that, like a commercial.
And we live on the property, but we can't
Isn't that a
possibly.
commercial, isn't that a commercial business then instead of a short-term rental? You're not actually there. That's why I was thinking what you put a cap on the days, or not, like at least the property owner's there for 3/4, a fourth of the year, I don't know, but. I don't know what number.
It's like citizenship, state, people, 6 months, right? 6 months in a day,
Mhm.
you go to Florida, whatever, you come back, you pay whatever, but that they're there, the other part, it may not be 6 months, but it may be, so I agree. There are people that I know in our neighborhood that have bought the house and clearly don't even live there because they live other places, and it's 100% rented as an Airbnb. And if you take that, my personal attitude is that's a commercial venture, you're not even living in it at all.
Mhm.
You may do upkeep, but you're not living in it, you just bought it for a commercial purpose. And it's not right in my eyes, but.
Well, ours is a business. Ours is under a business name. It's incorporated.
Okay.
We pay all the taxes, so, yeah, it is business.
But not everybody does that.
No,
Yeah,
that's
so
right.
that's what we're
But
saying,
we can possibly stay in our units.
But you are a commercial business, so
Right, we
that's
are
where we're
commercial,
separate, and that's why
that's
this is, we're just trying to separate
That's right.
those two.
That's right.
I just like to say that in contrast, now mine is not a business, I know you think it is, but it is not. Mine is, I did purchase my house to use myself and also so that I can make ends meet, I do rent it out, but it's far from a business.
Mhm.
So not all of these things are businesses.
Are you there sometime during the year?
Yeah,
Well, that's what we're
Right,
saying.
there you
So
go.
we're both
That's
trying
what we're
to-
saying.
okay, yeah.
I'm
yeah.
saying that there are people that don't even live in the house 365 days a year.
Okay.
And they call it residential service. It's not, that's a business. And like Deb said, she made a business out of it. You're there, it's part of the year, whatever that may be, so I'm not, it doesn't apply, my comment doesn't apply, to you. You're okay.
I get that, but the language here doesn't make any separation for that.
Right,
Is
so
my
we're,
point.
Right.
so we're now into our regular selectmen meeting hours. I'm gonna call this workshop to an end. There of course will be more, and you now have the working document. If there are any other resources or any questions, reach out to us, reach out to the town manager. And we want this dialogue, okay? It's important. All right, so I'm gonna, we are now out of our short-term rental ordinance workshop.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Is there, when it's next time, we look at that, or will that be posted somewhere?
Yeah, so we'll post it, we'll put it in the, it's usually in the post offices. Town office has it. It will be on our website as well. You shouldn't have to dig for it. We've got a calendar right on, our homepage of our website.
It didn't say this meeting on it.
Okay,
That's why I have.
okay. So we'll try to make it
Visible.
as visible as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you later.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. I guess we'll lock that in.
Happy
on the
Thanksgiving.
calendar. Let's,
You too.
do it an hour. All right, let me get myself organized here. All right. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now let's have a moment of silence for women, men and women in uniform, and for all of the horrific acts of violence that have happened across our nation over these last several days. Thank you. Conflict of interest disclosure, just a reminder to the board, if any agenda item is perceived as a potential conflict of interest, please the board know. Joe, any adjustments to the agenda?
None, man.
We've got several meeting minutes to review and approve.
Question.
Beginning with November 2nd, 2022, chapter 38 workshop notes.
Make a motion to accept the public workshop, chapter 38 for November 2nd, 2022.
Shelley's motion. Sam seconds. Questions or comments? All those in favor? And we have 3-4. Any opposed?
Nope, I'm on the other
Any
side.
abstain? Etna abstains. The November 7th, regular board of selectmen meeting.
Motion to approve the November 7th, 2022 regular Board of Selectmen meeting minutes.
Etna's motion. Sam seconds. Any questions or comments here? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. The November 14th, 2022 quarterly meeting.
I make a motion to accept the November 14th, 2022 quarterly meeting, Valley Plantation House.
And that's Sam's motion.
Second.
And Ethna seconds. Any questions or comments with this? Shelley?
Do we have to, or just notes, because they were basically leading the meeting? Is it something we still approve?
Technically, you don't have to approve it, however, there was a quorum present, right? There was
Yep, there
a
was.
quorum of the board present, this is your,
Three of us.
the record that, what took place when you were present.
Okay,
Okay.
that makes sense.
All right, perfect.
Yes, Mark.
I think it would be, in my opinion, a good idea to try to continue to have these quarterly meetings. I think there's a lot of common ground that gets discussed that builds community. And sometimes when you go too long without that, I think there's some negative consequences to it. So I would just encourage you to try to be more regular about it. If it's, I know it's a schedule and headache, but if you can pull it off, I do think it's a good thing to
Mhm.
pursue.
Yeah. Good.
Listen to that.
Yeah, I was sorry I missed it. I had another meeting. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? We have 3 in favor. I will abstain since I wasn't there. And then,
That's why I couldn't find it either one, I felt so weird. It's like, thanks. I can't find it. I don't know what the MRSA is.
and Sam, I wouldn't have put you on the spot unless I required it.
With my binder, I'm like, I can't find that either.
Oh my God.
You
Of
found
course, like
it.
underneath, I like shoved it further.
You found it.
Yeah.
Somewhere in this.
Oh my goodness.
So sorry for that moment.
That's
I
good.
learned my lesson, it was a tough one.
Oh, you just keep going.
I'm never gonna hear the end of it from Dave Douglas, I'll tell you right now.
Oh my goodness. All right, November 16, 2022.
I make a motion to accept the minutes for the public workshop, chapter 38 for November 16th, 2022, with any errors or corrections.
And that's Shelley's motion.
Second.
And Ethna's seconds. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Any public to speak on a non-agenda item? Boards and committees. We have got the October 11th Sewer Commission regular meeting, September 14th Planning Board, and October 26th Planning Board, all regular meetings. Moving on to section 7, we've got a consent item. This is the completed event permit application for the Walk to Bethlehem.
Make a motion to accept the event permit again, but now with the date of, because we approved it, didn't we, or did we table the whole thing?
We tabled
it.
Okay, I'm sorry, let me rescind. Make a motion to approve the event permit application for the Rangeley Performing Arts to be located on Main Street, Rangeley, and it is the Walk to Bethlehem, and the event date to be 12/11/22. It starts at 5:30, ends at 6, and the expected attendance is 30 people.
Shelley's motion. Second. And Ethna's seconds. Questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. We have got the general assistance ordinance, and so what Joe put in his notes, Maine Municipal Association has issued a revised general assistance ordinance for 2022. They've made updates to section 2.2 special definitions included in our packets. And so we need a motion to adopt the revised Maine Municipal Association GA ordinance 2022. Yes, Ethna.
Just really quick, I'm suspecting that the reason we didn't have to do the notice of public hearing and all that stuff is because this is a revision of something that they did that was incorrect in the initial one that we've already done, that we already held the special, the public hearing for
Yes.
when we adopted the appendices.
Right,
Okay, so we are not required to hold the public notice for this one.
No,
okay.
I asked that question too.
Okay.
The answer was no.
Just making sure. I suspected that's what it was.
Thank you, Ethna.
In that case, I make a motion to approve the amendments as proposed by whoever it was proposed by.
Maine Municipal Association.
Maine Municipal Association, sorry.
Ethna's motion. Second. And Sam seconds. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Next up is a mutual aid agreement for fire protection for Franklin County. So It encompasses Davis Township, Stetson, Seven Ponds, letter D, letter E, Reddington, and a portion of Langtown Townships. And the town will be compensated $21,968, made in 4 installments of $5,492. The motion to authorize the town manager to sign.
The motion to authorize the town manager to sign the mutual aid agreement for fire protection with Franklin County. Between the inhabitants of the town of Rangeland, Franklin County, sorry.
Bethany's motion.
Second.
Sam seconds. Any questions or comments? Yes, Sharon.
Joe had his hand up, see if everybody did.
Right.
It doesn't seem like a lot of money. How many miles of coverage is that?
I don't know offhand. I do know this amount will be increased in the next calendar year. So 23, the amount will be increased. We've looked at it internally, and the amount will be higher than that. I don't remember offhand what it is. I don't know offhand how many miles. I know the entire coverage area is over 600 square miles, but that doesn't mean that these
Right.
bodies make up that much. I can get that answer for you. Maybe I can help in a roundabout way answer that question. So we have one in place currently. You authorized me to sign it in August. It's a 3-pager. The county commissioners have asked their attorney to draw up this new one. The new one is a mutual aid agreement as opposed to structural fire protection of a local corporation. I think there's some reason they did that. I think they had some issues with one of the towns in the county. This was brought to their attention that they should work on this. That's what I understand. This does expand some of the definitions. It's an updated document. One of the things that's in here, it doesn't have to do with the coverage area, but it does have to do with all volume. They're requesting in this new document regular reports from us, not so terribly detailed, but in general, how often do we respond to these areas in the county? So that's new in this item. So that may help us as a parameter going forward, help them, help us understand how often. Chief has this information, we're just not reporting it. We haven't been asked for it, as I recall, on a regular basis in previous agreements. So that should help with figuring out if this is enough or not enough. We're basically working off last year's numbers. That's where this number came from. Second thing I want to point out, I think that's the best I can answer, of course. Second thing I want to point out is this will automatically renew unless we decide we don't want it to. So we have to give a 90-day period to make up our minds and we don't want it. But annually it will renew. The county administrator reached out over a month ago, or a month and a half ago. That's when we started talking about what's it going to cost next year with inflation and other costs have gone up. So it's really a housekeeping item. They felt we should do it midstream. It will replace, if you authorize me to sign it, it will replace the one that's in effect now. Steve Langsdorff has looked at this. He said it's fine. So
She said the town attorney reviewed it.
yes, Steve Langsdorff looked at it. His words were, it looks fine to me.
Sam, and so with that, with you, are you wanting to do the 90-day renewal, or you said that there's an automated renewal with it?
It will automatically renew.
Yes,
But
you will you be able to make adjustments as far as you just said, with the way costs of things go up, and how does that get implied in there?
so the parties shall annually review this compensation, determine its sufficiency, provided however that said compensation may only be adjusted upon written agreement signed on it between the board and the commissioners. So it's an annual review of the compensation. The 90-day period, that's only, yeah, that's it, we're having
Right.
some conflicts, disputes, or some other reason comes up and you feel like you don't want to renew it. I don't foresee that being an issue. There's a non-appropriation clause in this, which is good. Basically, if they don't come up with money for providing the service. So,
Any other questions or comments?
Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
So just really quick note to clarify, where they changed the language to be mutual aid agreement, it's still okay, we're still all right to authorize you as the signatory, we don't have to sign it as the signatory. The use of the word mutual aid agreement doesn't change, you can sign this.
you can authorize me to sign it. If you'd like to sign it.
No, I'm just verifying because of the use of the language mutual aid agreement. I don't know why that's sticking in my head, but I just wanted to throw that out there, so that we're good. I'm good with whoever wants to sign it, I just wanted to make sure that we were properly authorizing it based on the change of the language to mutual aid agreement.
Sounds like it's kosher. So we have a motion on the floor, Ethna's motion, Sam's second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Yeah, that's unanimous. We have next have a revocable license agreement between the town of Rangeley and Brackets Pumping Inc. Joe, I will turn this topic over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This may sound familiar to most members of the board. This came up earlier in the summer, I think, or summer. And it's related to our inability to land apply septic on the field at Chick Hill. So there are two separate licenses up there. One is for the spray irrigation, the stuff that goes through the collection system here in town, gets sprayed out. The second license has to do with direct land applying, so a septic hauler can go up there, literally open the valve on the back of the truck, spread it in a designated area where they couldn't previously. With the PFAS changes at the DEP and the legislature, they're hypersensitive to that, across the state, obviously Rangeley, and our license did not get renewed for the septic spray. A side effect of that is that the cost for the private sector to haul the waste out of here for all the towns and plantations that used to be allowed to spread up there went up quite a bit. The reason for that is they don't fit so much in the truck. They're going to Anson Madison sanitary district, which is the facility that's approved by the state to handle these septic loads. So in an attempt to help keep those costs from getting any higher and hopefully going down, the approach is to have that company, who does primarily most of the hauling here, they have an agreement with a third party to put what's called a frac tank, basically tractor trailer tank with a spill containment unit underneath it that's designed to contain everything that's in that tank. The idea is if we put that here, that the hauler can put 40, I think it's 20,000 gallons, I think it goes in it. Limit the number of trips, therefore hopefully keep pricing reasonable for the folks in the community. So we wouldn't want to just allow that with a handshake. We want to make sure there's an agreement in place. That's what this agreement is. It spells out who's responsible for it, where it would go, what the duration is, what are the insurance requirements. This agreement is for a year. I think it would be a good trial period for us. And there's no cost for this. Now, if you decide you think there should be, by all means, you could propose it. I think during the trial period, let's just kind of see where it takes us. I don't foresee this costing us anything. The town, it shouldn't cost the town anything.
They don't need any resources as far as people or
Nope.
whatnot.
No, because it won't be used as winter time, it frees up. I think their hope is to get it up there while they can, while it's available, and then begin using it in the springtime. So this takes the risk out of it from the town. It spells out. This takes most of this out of it. It's always risk. But this takes the uncertainty of the arrangement out of it for the town. Spells out who's responsible for what and identifies the insurance requirements. I think it's worth a try to see if we can help keep the cost reasonable while this is an interim thing in my mind. The other part of this, which is not in the agreement, is that I think it makes sense for us at some point, the town, us, the board, and I, to send a letter to DEP, kind of stating our case that this is a big part of the community, the land applying because of our remote location is important to folks here to make it reasonable cost effective. Send a letter as a placeholder to the DEP that when they have figured out the PFAS rules and so forth, we'd like to fire that back up and continue to, or resume using that. So I see this as an interim process, intermediate process, which is why I kind of put a 1-year clock on it. It doesn't work for us for some reason. And you have the opportunity, shorter than the year, within so many days notice, to say, well, this isn't working, you got to vacate. So that's that. On a little bit more of a tangent, our superintendent, Nick, moved on in October. Just want to put that out there. The wastewater treatment folks are handling that now. The lead operations plan, we do that. But just want to let you know that Nick had separated from the town as we had planned in October. I don't know if the public knew that yet. So. There.
Okay, so looking for a motion to authorize the town manager to sign the revocable license agreement.
Make a motion for the town manager to sign the revocable license agreement between the town of Rangeley and Brackets Pumping Inc.
Show his motion.
Do I have to say the expiration dates? Like
It's
to be
in there.
effective for 1 year? To be effective for 1 year.
Okay,
Second,
Shelley's motion and Ethna seconds.
effective for 1 year of the date of execution.
Any further discussion? Yes, Mark.
On the, while we were able to provide land application opportunities, we charged a fee to each of the municipalities, and they reported to us the number of gallons that were applied. And just thinking ahead a little bit, I think it would be in the town's best interest to continue to collect that data on how many gallons each of these communities are putting in this tank, just like they would if they were putting it on the ground. My thinking being that if Rangeley gets an opportunity to reapply a land application, but it's more not wide open like it was in the past, it would be nice to know how much the town of Rangeley puts in each of these plantations, because we may not be able to accommodate everybody that we were able to in the past, and it's just good information to have for future decision making. So I didn't know if that would need to be added to that agreement, or if there would be some type of top side agreement to get it. I don't know how they collected that information in the past when they paid the town.
Yeah, because we would get a like a sum or an agreement for each plantation with the maximum number of, maximum number of septic gallons. I remember one of the plantations was over.
By like 25,000 or something, and their fee stayed the same.
Stayed the same. So Joe,
I think we should track that, definitely. I agree with that. And the question is, does it need to be in this agreement? I think it could be a separate agreement. I
Okay,
think it could be, a separate agreement that we wouldn't sign this until we had that other agreement.
yeah, because if your plan is, you
Right.
know, to have spreading again in the future, then we. Yeah,
If we're limited, we
If-
want to take care of the people in our own community first. And then if we had excess capacity, we may be able to help out some of the surrounding plantations, but it'll be hard to know what to do if you don't have these numbers
Right.
to analyze.
right. So Joe, do you want to have a discussion with Brackets and see if they want to incorporate that wording in there, or have a separate?
I was gonna say, I would think Brackett himself would have to keep track of where he pulls, how many
Yeah.
gallons he pulls from everywhere he pulls.
Yeah,
I would think for his state license requirements, so it may be just as easy to ask him.
Maybe it's a report that they have to do.
I would make the assumption based on what he's collecting, he would have to keep a record of how many gallons he collects from what site.
Mm,
It's just an assumption.
yeah. Well, it's something the town manager could follow up with, just that. For our planning down the road. Unless, so are you okay with us approving this?
Yes,
And then you can have a follow-up discussion?
I'd like to do it that way.
Okay, all
Do I need
right.
to amend my motion with a follow-up? Mention a follow-up, or?
No, because it's specific to
Okay.
this agreement. All right, so we have Shelley made the motion, Ethna second. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? And that's unanimous. Overlook sidewalk final payment to M&H. We've got a summary of costs, and looks like there's 23,355.10. Yep, as shown on our agenda. So Joe, did we hold off? I remember back when Keith reported to the board that there was a discussion going on regarding certain charges that were being discussed. So safe to assume that's been worked out to your satisfaction.
That has been worked out, yep. Yeah, the one item that was being discussed was traffic control, days of traffic control. We ended up, I think it was 25 days more than what was originally in there.
Okay,
After review, so that's the biggest part. The remainder of that is retainage,
Mhm.
and what we were holding to close the project out. There were a couple other small items. I think one of them was a credit. Grade sand that failed. Did some asphalt, had a small amount that didn't pass.
Mhm.
So there's a couple of credits there, just about $1,000. Then there were some extras that I think it's pink.
Mhm.
But retainage, retainage was 17,824. That closes the project out,
All right,
but that is why, Madam Chair, that is the explanation for the period of time that it took was to work out those final days, the quantity of the days for
Mhm.
traffic.
motion to approve this final payment.
Make a motion to approve the final pay request for the Overlook Sidewalk project. The amount of $23,355.10.
That's his motion.
Second.
Sam seconds. Any further questions, Shelley?
What was that amount again? I have 23,335.10, is that right?
It's a typo, Madam Chair.
Okay.
The actual amount was the one that you noted earlier, it's 23,355.
355.
So I read that correctly. Okay.
Good deal, okay. I'm
It's a
like,
typo.
what the heck, I'm missing something?
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. We don't have any correspondence, so moving on to old business. Transfer station capital improvement plan from Wright Pierce. So, Joe, any comments on this?
Madam Chair, this is really informational at this point. There's no action required. This is the output of the report that you authorized, that the board authorized some number of months ago. The highlights, there's a narrative there, but the highlights really are in the pages that have the blocks, tables. Number one, there's more than one number on priority, the blue bracket there on the left. On scales and road widening, you can see this at the top, and they're by date. Traffic flow for wood waste, replaced alone would be 24, the other two would be 23. You can just kind of get a sense on the right-hand column, the estimated project cost. That's kind of a scope or scale of magnitude there. What we should be thinking about in terms of saving and or borrowing. Again, these are budget numbers, but it does lay out all the way to 2040 on the next page. So it's a good exercise for planning. But as we have talked about, and I know previous boards, staff talked about, scales would be good for that operation, because everything that we send out by weight.
Right.
And the disconnect, just we receive it all by volume. So it would be better for us to know exactly what we're taking in, then we can update our fees accordingly, make sure that we're at least covering that to send it out.
Right.
So
Great, so for informational purposes only. Any questions or comments from the board? Great. No new business, we've got the town manager report. With the police department. The fire department. Yes, Shelley.
So would it be helpful if the report for the fire department be broken down into the plantations for calls?
I think it would, and so Chief's on vacation this week, so I didn't have a chance to talk with him about that today. When the thought went through my mind earlier when I was looking at it. So I'd like to have a little time to discuss that with him, because I think that would save us.
So much time.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically, it
12
could look like that, yeah, exactly. Could send it down to them, because they do require a report from us. And I'm sure from their point of view, that helps them understand, what are we getting for this cost? It helps us understand what are we giving for this cost.
Right.
So, yes, I think the answer to your question is yes. However, I haven't had a chance to talk about it with you, but I will as soon as I can.
Okay.
Because we're now obligated to provide a report to at least Franklin County.
Yes, Shelley.
And I think with the plantation, they might want to see it too, just from the interpretation that I got from being up there. They look for us for a lot of like guidance, so, because we're able to regulate our stuff so much. It's not, I mean, I think it's just a matter of other things as well, like what's our uses, what are we paying for, those types of deals for services. So, I mean, just might be great to put it all out there for everybody, just saying. And it'll bring that communication part even more with all.
Any other questions or comments regarding these updates. All right, so on our calendar, we've got a chapter 38 workshop a week from Wednesday. Right. Yes. At 4:30. January 16th, schedule workshop for VAPCOG and the Community Resilience Partnership.
Madam Chair, this
Yes.
is the next step. You had a presentation from Yvette somewhere in the late summer. I think she spoke to you about this program through AFCOG. And you directed me to send a letter of support. So we're now following up. AFCOG and I talked last week, Zach, and I talked about next steps. And he and I are gonna work on some of the administrative next steps. One of the big next steps is a community workshop. Where folks who come in like they did earlier and talk about this program, we can get their input if you're still interested in going forward with it. But one of the requirements is to have a workshop for that purpose. And Zach and I both agree that half an hour is probably plenty to capture that, and have that discussion. So for tonight, if you could just if you're still interested in the program, you could schedule that workshop, and then the information that is in your binder is I believe the same information that Yvette gave us a few months ago. I just wanted you to have it at your fingertips.
Thank you.
To be thinking about the type of projects that we might be interested in. And what the community might be interested in when they come to the workshop. Give input.
Super duper. So for future short-term rental discussions, do we want to continue to have them for the hour prior to our Board of Selectmen's meetings? Or would you, is that not enough time? Would you rather have a separate, 2-hour period of time?
I personally liked it.
Yeah.
Granted, we'll have more time, or depending if we don't have another executive session, but I thought it was very productive.
Okay.
Not too much overwhelming.
Yeah. All right, so let's,
Having another day to work.
yeah, I agree. That's such a good point. All right, so we'll, I guess for the next few board meetings, Joe will start with the 5 o'clock public workshop and
Those reminder texts help.
What's that?
Those reminder texts help.
yeah, I'm happy to do it. Okay, and it would be easy for the public to carve out time. I think that's it under calendar, under other business, ortho imagery update. So we've got an email exchange. And it's like January, February 2023. Get our imagery. Poland Springs update.
That was email.
That was email, that's right. And LD 2003 provided help us to move forward with our accessory dwelling unit ordinance. Any other questions? Any questions or comments under town manager report? Select board communications. Sam, have you got anything?
I was wanting to see if any would be interested in the town to throw a Christmas party. I would love to be the sponsor of such an event for everybody who's involved in making this town so amazing. And I have picked out some dates, but I again, like feedback from you guys on what works best. Would it be Fridays would be better, or I think I had, again, is this possible? Because I also don't want to cross any legal lines with us all being together. And I mean, it's like, as soon as somebody mentions town stuff, they get the boot out the front door into the freezing cold. Christmas present
I didn't
for
stop
you.
it.
So just, I just want everybody to come together. It's, I
Yeah.
feel like,
Maybe potluck?
no, Moose Alley's gonna put up food. It's all gonna be held at Moose Alley. We're gonna provide the food. You just
Nice.
pay for your beverage, if you choose to be alcohol, that's great. If not, great too. Then entertainment, bowling, all included. Everything's included. I can do this when we are closed on a Monday or Wednesday, or I know we have we can do the 5th, so maybe the 12th. I don't know, or Wednesdays seem to be pretty booked with up to, everybody wants to go. You guys are here till like, let's see, your ordinances till 6 or 7, that's late.
Ordinance is over 6.
Right, and Fridays, I don't know, everybody wants to be home with their families. This is really good. The 20th or the 21st?
Let's see.
Maybe the 20th. These nights. Again. Do we want to put up a thing for the town to see what works best for them, Joe, or what do you think?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah,
You're thinking an evening, it sounds like an evening, but
Yeah, after work, come all.
yes, after, yes,
Do we want to provide 2 dates?
Okay,
Well, the 12th
12th look good?
and another date, right?
12th and maybe
Yeah.
16th
I mean, if we have a couple of
16th?
options to bring to everybody, right?
12th of the 16th?
of that week, or? I don't want to do the following week, because that's kind of hectic for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, it is.
Even the week
What would the
before.
16th do you though for you being open? You said you're closed on Mondays or Wednesdays. right?
Yeah, we can do it during, I assume we're gonna have to make this public, right, with all of us congregating together, right, so you can't, I would want it to be open to I would think we'd have to be open.
It may need, would it just need to be
It
posted?
just need to be posted that would be in
yeah, it would
attendance
need to
at.
be posted if a quorum of the board is gonna be present at the same time.
Right.
It's, anything below the board level, the public
Yeah,
doesn't have a right to know.
So maybe it's the third Thursday, like the 8th, does that look good? 8th or the 12th,
8 to the 12th.
sounds okay, possibly?
yeah,
And like, I'm talking, any committee, any board, any.
So you're not messing around with vacations and
Right. Middle
other
of the week,
possible parties.
a couple hours, come bowl your heart out.
yeah.
Have some pool, have some food, have some jolly cheer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can send a poll out
Ho,
to
ho, ho.
Oh,
Right,
staff and committees.
just like us,
Right.
get together on some
great.
good terms and.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Sounds nice,
That's
yeah.
amazing. So staff and
I'll be
committees,
about-
Yeah.
no.
2 days.
as long as we put it public, we're all set.
All right, so.
Yeah, if the board's gonna attend, we'll just post that there's a holiday party at Moose Alley.
I was gonna say, that's how you handled it in the past, you just did a post that you're all gonna be in the same space, right?
All right, I'm sorry, what were those dates again?
8th and the 12th.
Okay. I do have a conflict on the 12th, but I'll be out. 4 o'clock, yeah, that's fine, I'll be out by 6. Okay, cool. Ethna, anything for select board communication? Cheryl?
No.
I'm good too. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Ethna's motion. Oh, no one wants to adjourn. Okay,
That
all right, let's go back to the beginning of the
is
agenda.
not a debatable motion. Under Robert's rules, it's not.
That's right. Sam seconds, all those in favor. Yes, unanimous. Thank you, everybody.
I just can't believe it's so early.
I know, it's